Hi, I'm Jennifer Mellon. I'm from Uxbridge, Massachusetts, and in 2016, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 4. I went for my colonoscopy at the age of 51 after my doctor had been after me since my mid-40s to get a colonoscopy because we had a family history. My father died from colon cancer. I had no symptoms. I went for a colonoscopy. I thought I was athletic and I ate well. It should be easy. And when I was in the recovery, there were several other patients who had had their colonoscopies that day as well. And the nurses were going down the bays one by one, releasing people saying, "You did great, you can gather your things and leave." And she came to my bay, my husband was with me, and she said, "The doctor will be in to speak with you." And my husband and I looked at each other and we said, that's funny. Kind of didn't think too much of it until the doctor came in and he said, I had to stop the colonoscopy, so we found a mass. And it was like time stopped and the world kind of twisted out from underneath my feet. My initial feelings and my emotional spiral, it was like there was a tent over my life. I didn't know what to do. I really spiraled, but I didn't allow myself to spiral for too long because I had to take action. So I had this diagnosis, and immediately while we were in the hospital, I thought, of course I have cancer. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I didn't get the colonoscopy when my doctor started telling me to. I could have avoided all of this. Now I have a responsibility. I have 2 little kids. All I kept thinking was, what have I done? So then I got mad, and I just got on the phone until I found an oncologist, and luckily UMass was right there. Took me in. The stigma of the colonoscopy. There is no stigma around a colonoscopy, not anymore. It's the easiest thing to do, and it could have prevented the last 8 years for me. Getting a colonoscopy is a mild inconvenience, and it is a gift to avoid potentially, stigma around a colonoscopy. Everything that I've been through for the last 8 years, I am a champion of colonoscopies. The memorable moments through my chemo journey, there were many, many lows. Because the initial plan of having the surgery and then 3 months of follow-up chemo was good in theory, but after the second set of chemo, I went back in for a CAT scan, and the cancer, even though the surgery itself had been very successful, the surgeons were psyched, they got the tumors, they were so happy. After the second set of chemo, I came back and it was in my lungs. So the game was on again, and that was for sure a low. And nausea. I just was sick. So the quality of my life while going through chemo was not fantastic. I made the most of it. I had gotten chemo every other week from 2016 through 2021, I believe. And it was every other week of spending 4 days in bed with horrific nausea, anticipatory nausea when I would come in to get treated, because I would come in on a Tuesday and get a pump, and I'd get infused in the hospital. I would leave with the pump and come back on Thursday for disconnect, but I would get home and I couldn't leave my bed, and they'd disconnect the pump, but I wouldn't feel any better. and I would have to spend the entire day on Friday in bed just fighting to start to feel better. And it wasn't until the weekend I would make myself get out of bed. My kids were growing up as I was sick. I couldn't go on field trips with them. I couldn't work. I couldn't get a job. When the kids were in school full-time, when most parents could at least get a part-time job, nobody wanted to hire somebody who's in bed every other week for 4 to 5 days. There were a lot of dents to the quality of my life on chemo. So compared to chemo, the treatment with botensilimab is night and day. Chemo was gearing up to feel horrible. I didn't know what to expect when I first started botensilimab, and I was really terrified a little bit because of my experience with chemo. And I remember my very first treatment, it was a very long day. There was a lot of stuff I had to go through for the clinical trial. And they accessed my port and they started the infusion, and I wasn't feeling sick. And then I think I got the 2 drugs the very first day, the very first treatment, and I ate a sandwich, right? And I felt good, and I was joking around with my husband, and I wasn't smelling things, and I wasn't getting nauseous, and I wasn't getting tired, and I was in a good mood. And when the day finally ended, I didn't go home with a pump, and I walked out on my own 2 feet, and I had energy. It was a magical moment. It wasn't chemo. It was great. There was a moment on the clinical trial where I finally felt hopeful. It was the first treatment. And it was the first treatment not making me feel sick. I'm a very active person. And the chemo, the treatment that I was on previous to botensilimab wasn't working anymore. I was losing the fight, and I didn't have any energy, and I was starting to not be able to breathe. I couldn't climb a flight of stairs. And it was very early on after my first treatment that something was changing, and it was good. And I didn't need all those cough drops all of a sudden. Compared to chemo, botensilimab was night and day. It was a total game changer. Chemo was miserable. Chemo was like getting ready for a game. I had to gear myself up. I had to pep talk myself for the nausea and for all the other side effects that came along with chemo, which none of it was pretty, and it wasn't easy on my family. Botensilimab is easy. I come in for the infusion. I feel great during the infusion. I come in and I get treated, and then I go home. And I feel good the entire time. I would say I don't have any side effects. I say this over and over again. I don't know how to express how grateful I am that this happened to me. I feel like the cancer was my fault because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So I fought really hard to get through the chemotherapy. And because of my family, I was willing to do whatever I had to do, no matter how sick it made me and how hard it was to fight to feel better. But I was going to feel better between those treatments. And it was a lot of work. So when my oncologist from UMass reached out to Dr. Schlechter at Dana-Farber, and I slipped through that crack and got in, it was a magical moment. My life did a 180. The quality of my life, it's unbelievable. Like, I just am so grateful. When I walk my dog in the morning, every time, whether it's cold, raining, warm, sunny, I walk down my street and I'm like, oh, I feel good. Like,
it feels good to feel good. Like, people need to appreciate feeling good. And I am so happy that this happened to me. And I need to be able to convey that. Like, I can't, like, there's no way to repay what has been given to me. So I'm extremely grateful to anyone who had a hand in making this drug available, and to my team at Dana-Farber and at UMass. You literally mean everything to me.